Episode 27, here we go! Just outside Knothole, Sally and Sandra are walking towards Sophin Hut. He'll be good to see him again, Sandra said. It's been almost a month now without hearing from them. Sally nodded quietly, but Sandra could tell her sister hadn't heard a word she said. Sally, you're about to walk into a tree, Sandra said jokingly. Again, that same nod from Sally. Sandra just sighed, and had to push Sally to the side when she saw it really hadn't been a joke. Sally landed hard on her side and glared up at Sandra. What did you do that for? She asked, sitting up and holding her ribs. Sandra helped Sally to her feet. It was either that or let you get skewered. Sally looked at the tree just to her side and saw a very sharp branch that had been pointed right at her. Thanks, she muttered, dusting herself off. What are sisters for? Sandra asked, smiling. But maybe this isn't the best time to visit them. Sally waved it off. I'm just worried about Sonic. After all, I haven't seen all that much of him lately. What do you mean? Sandra asked. I haven't noticed him missing or anything. That's just the thing. He's around, but he hasn't been with me. It's not that he's been avoiding me either. At least, I don't think he is. Oh, come on, Sally, Sandra said, nuzzling her sister in her ribs with an elbow. The day Sonic avoids you is the day I eat one of my crystals. He's probably just working on something. What he needs to be working on is helping us get the 3 emeralds we don't have, Sally muttered, starting to walk down the path again. He seems so focused on something, but it's not what we need him to be focused on. We'll talk about it later, Sandra promised. Right now, we better get moving. We have a lot to do, not a lot of time to do it. Sally nodded, and the sisters walked in silence the rest of the way. Sandra went right to the door and knocked on it. Voice identification, please, the computer said through a speaker, just on the side of the door. It's me, Sandra, Sandra said. Come on, let us in. Us, the computer said. Please identify. Princess Sally Alicia of the House of Acorn, Sally said formally, but with a slight sigh. Nice of you to grace us with your presence, the computer said with a touch of sarcasm. Then, silly. Sally reached for Nicole, but Sandra stopped her. You asked for that one, sis. Yes, you did, the computer agreed, announcing your presence now. Nadia was sitting in the chair in front of the computer. From the back, it looked like she was working, and the other view, however, showed her fast asleep. Nadia, the computer said quietly, trying to wake her. Nadia stirred, but did not wake. Nadia! The computer yelled at full volume. What? Nadia yelled back, grabbing something nearby and throwing it at the speaker. Good. At least I didn't have to activate the alarms to wake you. Anyway, you have visitors. Visitors? Nadia asked, emphasizing the final S. Sandra said she might stop by today, but didn't say she was bringing Tails. No, it's not Tails. She brought her sister. Oh, well, let them in. Hey, has anybody else beside me noticed that, Tails has probably gotten the least amount of screen time of anybody here? The door opened. Sandra and Sally walked in. Thank you so much, Sally said, doing a curtsy mockingly. The pleasure is mine, the computer said, to fire a laser just close enough to Sally to cinch her tail. Your Majesty. Sally jumped with a small yell and swatted at her smoking tail, as Sandra stood there laughing. It did that to me once, Sandra said, between laughs. Then I threatened to sell a few crystals into the main consoles, and it's left me alone since. How you two? Nadia said, giving it a hug. So, what brings you out to this day? Well, I wasn't trying to get my tail burnt, Sally said, frowning. Nadia tried to hold in a chuckle, but not all that well. Computer, you know better. Should I have done a ventricular program again? She asked for it, the computer returned. It is not point fingers, Nadia said. So, what did you two come here for? I came to visit, Sandra said. Sally wanted to talk to Donovan. Is he around? No, Nadia said, seemingly ill at ease. But I can get to here in a few minutes, if you care to wait. It is important I talk to him, Sally said, sitting down in a nearby chair. Where is he anyway? Training, Nadia said with a shrug. Sally narrowed her eyes slightly. Nadia's manner had suddenly become a bit forced, as if she were hiding something. But she was activating the communicator, and Sally held her pace. Somewhere in the great unknown, Donovan stood calmly with his arms folded, looking down at the watts. Somewhere nearby, a crackle of electricity sounded, followed by a yellow pain. Donovan just shook his head. Again? He thought with an inward sigh. Just then his communicator beat to life. Without looking, he grabbed his communicator and clicked it on. Is this an emergency? He asked, not taking his eyes off the watts. You decide, Nadia said. Sally's here, and she wants to talk to you. Concerning? Silence followed for a moment. Your surveillance of Robert Trapetus, Nadia said finally. She wants your help in locating the ambulance. Ironic. I'll be there as soon as I can. Donovan turned off his communicator and replaced it in his pocket. All this time, his eyes never left his watch. After a few minutes, Sonic came into view. He stumbled across the line that had been stressed into dirt and collapsed. Since when did you start using real traps? Sonic asked, rubbing his side where some blood could be seen. Since you started running through the illusions, Donovan answered. Remember, Quills, Robotnik won't be using any illusions. He's going to be out to kill you. He won't get the chance if you do it, Sonic said, rubbing off the sneakers he was wearing. Whereas normal sneakers were red with a white stripe, his were yellow. And I hate these sneakers! I miss my boots. What? It's Ganon. Those aren't sneakers Sonic wears. They're boots! Yeah, Sonic folds down a pair of boots. It's weird! You asked me to improve your instincts so you won't rely on your speed as much. That's why I made these. Can you think of a better way of stopping you from using your speed than to send a few volts through your feet every time you speed up? Hey, how about instead of forcing Sonic to slow down, how about training him to improve his speed with new techniques and new skills? Like, instead of slowing him down and making him not rely on it, how about training him to do things like speed mirages? Or phasing through solid walls? Or vibrating robots to explode? And, excuse me. Dash, why are you going through the door? The bookstore hours are closed. Oh, Pinky said you had this really cool ring that allows you to transfer dimensions, and I really wanted to see where you were going. I'm going to kill that little pink pony in a second. I'm going to kill her slowly. Rainbow Dash, get off my property. And what are you going to do? Play something to poop? I'll bring her back in a bit. Can't freaking believe these speedsters. I understand it. Doesn't mean I have to like it. Sonic rubbed his feet and sighed. At least I only forgot this time. How's my time? Good enough that I would have started using real traps anyway. Just know that next time, more of them will be real. You've got to determine which ones are and which are not. Yeah, I know, my instincts. Let's head back. Me, yes, you can't. Silly's at the base. Sonic's eyes widened. You don't think she knows, do you? I doubt it. She came over to discuss my surveillance equipment. Sonic shook his head slowly. That's my Sally, never giving up hope. I know it's going to come down to me and Robotnik in that fight Knuckles mentioned, whatever it's called. Armageddon, Don said gratefully. The fight for the 7 emeralds. Well, I better be going back before Silly starts to suspect something. What about my backpack? Remember, it's in your room. Donovan groaned slightly. I'll send you in it to Sanctuary. Just wait there for it. Sonic nodded, reaching for the teleport chip Donovan had held out to him. A few seconds and a push of a button later, Sonic was surrounded by white light and disappeared. Donovan nodded to himself and picked up the yellow sneakers, disappeared in his own flash of light. Sally, Sandra, and Nadia were talking calmly when Donovan appeared by the doorway. All three turned to him, not surprised in the least by his sudden appearance. Hello. Excuse me one moment, he said, hurrying past them into the bedroom. He seems in a hurry today, Sandra nodded. Since when does he wear sneakers? Sally asked. Sneakers? Nadia repeated. Sally nodded. He had a pair of sneakers similar to the ones Sonic wears, except for the fact that they are a bright yellow. Oh, those. I gave that to him for his birthday. He doesn't really like them, but he uses them to humor me. Sally and Sandra exchanged a glance and shrugged. They all settled back to wait for Donovan to come out of his room. Meanwhile, Sonic paced around in his socks, just inside sanctuary doors. Sonic, a familiar yet unfamiliar voice asked, Is that you? Sonic turned and suddenly saw Tanis. Tanis? I hardly recognize you.
Well, you haven't been by to see me or Rosie since we were youthened,
Tanis said, smiling.
So, how is your training going?
I'm doing okay, Sonic said, shrugging. Then something occurred to him. Hey, wait a minute. How do you know about that?
You forget who you talk to, Sonic. I may be young and still unable to interfere, but I keep watch over things. When I'm not distracted, of course.
Distracted? Sonic asked, raising an eyebrow.
I am afraid I'm the cause of that,
a quiet voice said from the side of the door. Oh God, more old people sex! I don't care if they've been youthened! Sonic looked over the door, and his jaw dropped in surprise. He knew instinctively who it was that stood before him, but his mind refused to believe his eyes. Rosie? He asked quietly. Rosie smiled and nodded, stepping out of the light. She now wore the same type of robe Tanis did, but it fit her similar to how one of Donovan's sweatsuits fit Nadia. I've been keeping him from his duties, she said, walking to Tanis and leaning back against him, putting his hands around her waist. Not so much that the Almighty would be angry with us, but we do have quite a lot of lost time to make up, if you know what I mean. Sonic just shook his head slowly. It's so different to see you like this. Before you were like my grandma, but now... Sonic's words trailed off as his backpack and sneakers suddenly appeared at his feet. He scooped them up, muttered a quick goodbye, and sped out the door, putting his sneakers on as he ran. Rosie chuckled quietly as he left. Now, what do you suppose was bothering him? She asked softly. Tanis smiled and kissed Rosie's cheek softly.
I haven't the faintest idea.
Back at the hut, Donovan took a breath to compose himself and stepped out to where the three women awaited him. Okay, I'm ready, he said. What brings you here? Sally looked down as he sat down next to Nadia. If what I heard is right, you have most, if not all, of Robotropolis under surveillance. I was wondering if you found the emeralds yet. Yes and no, silly. Sally grumbled something under her breath, but Sandra spoke up before her sister could. If I know you as well as I think I do, that means one of two things. Either you found one and not the other, or you found them and they're so well guarded you have no idea how to get them. Am I getting that predictable? Donovan muttered, his mouth twisted to one side. Nadia smiled and held his hands between hers. Part of being friends with someone is getting to know them, she said quietly. And other than me, I don't think anyone's closer to you now than Sandra is. I guess, Donovan admitted. In answer to both your questions, Sandra, you're correct and incorrect on both counts. Which one did you find, and why can't we read it? Sally asked, sitting straight up and leaning forward attentively. Donovan looked at Sally for a moment, then glanced over to Nadia. I'll ask for an explanation on that one later, he mumbled quickly. What explanation? Sally asked. Give me one other way your words can be taken. Donovan turned back to Sally. Perhaps. Anyway, I found a fire emerald. As for why we can't get to it, it's down a long hallway surrounded by lasers. Sonic and I wouldn't be able to run it? Sandra asked. Two problems, Donovan said simply. First, the corridor is kept under freezing, so that the floor is slick with ice. Second, each laser will fire at exactly the same time. Sandra and Sally both winced, but remained silent. We're looking on it, Nadia said. Without much success, I'm afraid, Donovan said tiredly. For now, could you allow him to tell me what Robotnik is up to? Sally asked. Maybe we'll get lucky. Donovan moved over to the keyboard and typed in a few commands. A room of Robotropolis came onto the screen, but not the one Robotnik was in. Donovan switched from camera to camera, trying to locate Robotnik, and finally found it in the main command center. After another typed command, the audio kicked in, and you were able to hear his every word.
Computer, Robotnik said. Have you finished the latest scan I ordered? Yes, the computer answered. What emerald has been found?
What? The three of the four in the hut screamed simultaneously. But Donovan sat there, looking at the screen as Robotnik continued.
Where's the emerald then?
Robotnik asked.
The emerald's energy is spread within the roboticized Sniffly, the computer answered. From my calculations, the emerald was merged with his robotic form when he was roboticized.
So then it's not something I can just remove.
Affirmative. The only way to recover the emerald is to de-roboticize them.
Robotnik muttered a few curses and stepped back to his chair.
One other thing, sir, the computer continued. I have finished my test on the unknown chip found in the roboticizer.
A schematic appeared on the screen with an arrow pointing to one part of it.
It appears to be part of a de-roboticization circuit.
Donovan's eye widened in surprise and then narrowed in anger. Uh-oh. Nadia and Sandra both muttered under their breath. A de-roboticization circuit? Sally asked as he couldn't believe what she was hearing. Such a thing exists? Donovan brought his finger to his lips and sussed Sally. Normally, Sally would have started an argument with Donovan at that point, but Sandra and Nadia grabbed her and whispered her to be quiet.
Part of a circuit, Robotnik asked. Have the others been located? Negative, but it appears those parts could be synthesized,
the computer answered. What? Donovan asked quietly, whilst the Robotnik nodded at the screen in front of him.
Then do so, Robotnik ordered, and after Sniffly is de-roboticized, make sure the chip is destroyed. And one thing, when the emerald is safe, eliminate him.
Computer, end transmission, Nadia ordered. She walked over to Donovan as he began to stand. Oh no, she said, seeing his face. Don't you dare. Sandra and Sally moved to where they could see Donovan's face and froze. Never had either seen his eyes so red. His face, normally calm no matter his inner turmoil, was contorted in rage. Donovan tried to push past Nadia and head toward the door, but she stopped him.
Out of the way, Nadia,
Donovan said in a cold, dark voice. I could give you 10 reasons you shouldn't go, Nadia said, holding onto his arm. But I'm only going to give you one. She grabbed his hand and kissed him soundly. Donovan stood for a moment shocked, then placed his hands on her shoulders and tried to push her off. That was what Nadia was waiting for. As he fell back, she held onto his head and sat down, slamming his head to the floor between her legs. She then rolled to her feet, so as he lay there, stunned and half conscious.
Greatest position ever!
Leave for us here, she said to Sally and Sandra, grabbing the remote from Donovan's pocket. One of us should be back soon. One of you? Sandra asked as Nadia changed the settings on the controller and pushed the button, teleporting Donovan. He is not going. I am. Before either princess could stop her, Nadia hurried out the door and activated her rocket boots. I hope she'll be okay, Sandra said quietly. I hope we will, Sally said. When Donovan gets back, he'll not be in a good mood.
Probably not, the computer said, cutting into the conversation. However, he probably won't be in as bad of a mood either.
Dorian sat in the hideout and slammed his fist on the console in front of him. He'd been monitoring activity inside Robotropolis and intercepted a transmission that Donovan had received.
He's been found out, he said, cursing under his breath. We've got to go in there and get him. And do what? Melsyke asked. Unless you have a plan of some kind, we're just going to get ourselves destroyed and really be no use to him.
Dorian glared at the robot, but admitted he was right.
I don't suppose you have a plan, do you? Me? I'm a robot of action, not of planning.
Right, Dorian muttered sarcastically. There's one chance, but you're not going to like it.
Does he even think about it? Melsyke said coldly. For one thing, there's no way to agree to it.
You want to win, right? I'm sorry, but I think Sniffly's life and the fate of the whole planet is more important than who wins. And to tell you the truth, I'd rather they win instead of Fat Boy.
Good point, Melsyke said, grumbling a bit. How are we going to go through this, though? You can't just stroll into that hole and ask for their help. You haven't even told me where it is.
Oh, but you see we can't. Dorian closed his eyes and pictured a path in his mind. One a young cat had shown him. Donovan lay still for a moment, still very disoriented and having no clue where he was.
Why didn't I see that coming?
He asked himself, pushing himself off the hard stone floor.
Donovan, is that you?
A voice came from somewhere behind him. On instinct, Donovan whirled around, trying to grab his sword, but his sword glow refused to come loose in the scabbard.
Donovan, the voice said sternly, how dare you try to draw your weapon inside Sanctuary?
Sanctuary? Donovan said slowly, looking around. He looked down at his sword, which was still glowed slightly, then at Tanis, who walking down the center of the aisle toward him almost angrily. I should have known it was going to be one of those days, he muttered, sinking back down to one knee.
You're lucky you have that wrist,
Tanis said, helping Donovan to the stone benches.
You draw a weapon in here.
I know, Donovan said. Thanks.
Wait until I fix your nose to thank me,
Tanis said, placing one hand on Donovan's face. Nose? Donovan asked, but winced when Tanis touched it.
You mean you haven't noticed you're dripping blood all over the place? How did this happen anyway?
Donovan didn't say a word, just waited patiently as Tanis healed his nose with a few chanted words. After that was done, Tanis pointed a finger at the blood on the floor, spoke a few more words, and the blood was consumed in a blue flame. Thank you, Tanis, Donovan said, standing. Now, if you'll excuse me.
Where are you going in such a hurry?
Tanis asked.
And you still didn't answer my question.
I'm going to retrieve something before it's destroyed, Donovan said simply, walking toward the doors. When he tried to open them, however, they refused to budge, much as his sword would not draw. He pushed at the doors with all his might, but they didn't open 1 inch. Are these doors stuck again? He asked irritably, checking their hinges for rust.
I haven't been neglecting my duties that much, Donovan,
Tanis said quietly.
In fact, I don't think it's the doors at all.
Then why won't these doors open? Maybe it's you, a soft voice suggested from a side door. More specifically, your wish.
Rosie, you know the rules, Tanis said calmly. We are forbidden to interfere.
You're right, Rosie reminded him. I have not been initiated yet. So he walked over and placed a hand on Donovan's shoulder. If you answer me 2 questions, I can tell you why these doors will not open. Donovan tried to open the doors a couple moments longer, but eventually gave a frustrated sigh. Fine, he grumbled, sitting down in the nearest stone bench. Rosie smiled and sat down next to him, sweeping her long black hair behind her. My first question is just what Thomas asked earlier. Who did this to you? No need to go into that, Donovan said. Next question, please. You said you answered my questions, remember? Okay, I'd rather not get into that. That's answer enough, Rosie said, smiling. The only reason you wouldn't answer is if it's Nadia. My other question is this. Why do you think your wish allowed her to do that to you? My wish had nothing to do with it, Donovan said calmly. She tried to stop me from leaving. I tried to push her off. I ended up on the floor, plain and simple. I also got a really good view, but that's beside the point. Not so, Rosie countered. If I understand correctly, your wish acts to protect you from any kind of permanent harm, right? Last I checked. But what happens if it's faced with 2 situations, one of which must happen, and both of which will do you harm? Why don't you choose the lesser of the 2? Your point being? I'll put it simply. What if there was something in Robotropolis your wish cannot protect you from? So it's stopping you from even going there. Donovan looked right at her. I never mentioned I was going to Robotropolis. Besides, I don't have a choice. Rosie blushed a bit. I guess I messed up there. I was eavesdropping on you and Tanis one time while you were here, so I know what you're going after. But aside from that, I think you should know that if I don't go retrieve this chip, Donovan said, cutting Rosie off, Barry saw her going through a whole lot of roboticization guns and a lot of crystals, consuming a lot of time, and not even mentioning the damage each gun will cause when it blows up. Anyone who has ever been roboticized will stay that way. I have to get that chip, he said, standing up and walking towards the doors again. Nadia's right now on her way to get that chip, Rosie finished quietly. Donovan stopped short, right inside the doors. What? He asked, turning around slowly. You heard me. Nadia's either near or already in the Metropolis to get that chip. Not if I can help it, Donovan said, reaching to his pocket for his communicator. After a second, he realized it wasn't there. Sighing bitterly, he leaned his head against the door. Definitely not one of my better days, he muttered. Looks like I have to do this from the hut. At that moment, the door to his sanctuary opened a bit. I noticed as Donovan fell through, landing first on the steps. This time, nothing was bloody or broken, though. Donovan got up, shook his head slightly, and ran out towards the hut, not even trusting in his luck enough to activate his rocket boots. Rosie smiled again as the doors to the sanctuary closed. She got up, smoothed out some wrinkles in her robe, and turned to find Thomas staring at her rather sternly.
You know that wasn't right, he said quietly. Making Donovan believe it was his wish when you were the one doing it. I had a feeling I shouldn't have asked the Almighty to start giving you magic before you were initiated.
Rosie pecked up and kissed him on the nose. Did you ever think this is the reason why I have magic now? She asked playfully, slowly walking back to the side room, shaking her rump. Besides, if the Almighty didn't like what I was doing, I would be alive now, would I? Thomas sighed, rubbing his temple slightly.
She's worse than when she really was this age, he thought,
walking toward the altar.
I could only imagine what the rest of our life together would be like.
A smile touched his lips as he thought about it, and he set aside and went about his duties. Nadia crept behind a wall in Robotropolis, letting a few swap bots pass by her. When they were outside, she made her way towards the roboticizer. I hope I know what I'm doing, she muttered. She reached the room rather easily, but set her back some. She expected to dodge or fight a horde of SWAT bots, but after those first few, she had not seen any. Something's wrong here, she thought, pushing the door open forcefully. The room was deserted, even more so than the halls. Now Nadia was definitely suspicious, but she knew she didn't have much time. She ran in and opened the access port that the arrow of Dr. Robotnik's computer had pointed to. Inside, she found a chip that definitely seemed out of place. Nadia reached inside and disconnected the chip. As soon as she did, a laser struck her arm, burning it severely. Biting her lip against the intense pain, she drew her arm out, still holding the chip. Tearing some cloth from her sweatsuit, she bandaged it up carefully, but she knew she had to get to Tanis. But through all that pain, something was nagging at the back of her mind. Blocking the pain as best she could, she tracked down the thought. Jonathan wouldn't be hurt by this, she thought. Robotnik knows nothing permanent could happen to him. So what was that for? Looking back inside the port, she saw her trap. If the laser that struck her arm had malfunctioned or been misdirected in any way, as Donovan's wish would have done, a trigger would have been tripped. Following the wire that led from the trigger, she saw the bombs be placed all around the exits. This was meant for Donovan, she thought, putting the chip away and hugging her close to her body. He wouldn't have gotten hurt, that's sealed in. Probably nothing here until Robotnik could figure out what to do with him. But that means he was onto us the whole time. Gritting her teeth against the pain, she stumbled out the room, just in time to see Robotnik coming her way. Oh no, she said, breaking off at a run. Robotnik cursed when he saw Nadia.
Her again! All SWAT bots, open fire!
He commanded. Nadia ran blindly, fear and pain setting down her thoughts. All she was aware of was the need for escape, and the pain that made her arm pretty much useless. She turned the corner, running into the 3 SWAT bots that were waiting for her. But as they grabbed her, a white light surrounded her and disappeared. Robotnik almost growled in anger as he saw her disappear.
I want every single inch of Robotropolis scoured to find those other 2 parts,
he stuttered his communicator to all SWAT bots at once. Nadia ran into a wall and crumpled to the floor. She yelled in pain as she landed on her injured arm, but still kicked at the hands that grabbed her.
Nadia!
Nadia! A familiar voice yelled, slicing through the haze of pain. Sandra! Nadia asked quietly. Looking around, she noticed she was back in the hut and relaxed, though she couldn't move her arm at all. Dolphin ran to her side.
What happened?
He asked. Then before she could answer, he said,
Never mind. We gotta have this looked at. Computer! Say no more.
The computer said, teleporting both Donovan and Nadia to the sanctuary. Where'd they go? Sally asked, looking around for them. The one place she could get this healed, Sandra said, heading for the door. You coming or not? Nadia tried to stand as she and Donovan appeared in the sanctuary, but she had no strength to do so. Donovan caught her in his arms and laid her down on the nearest stone bench.
Tanis! He called. Rosie!
Tanis and Rosie rushed out of the room.
Donovan,
Tanis asked.
What's wrong?
Donovan pointed at Nadia's charred arm. Thomas covered her wound with his hands, but Nadia kept squirming and writhing in pain.
Hold her still,
Thomas ordered, grabbing Nadia's arm. Nadia screamed in pain and passed out, the pain finally too much for her to take. Thomas's hands began to glow as he sent his healing power into her arm.
Buddy almighty,
Thomas whispered as he worked.
What could have burned her so badly? The burn goes all the way down to the bone.
What? Donovan asked unbelievably. Buddy almighty, I should have went. He walked over to the wall and leaned his head against it. Nadia stirred slightly, moaning in pain.
Donovan,
she whispered.
Easy, child,
Rosie said, stroking her head.
Donovan is here. Lie still and let Thomas do his work.
Trap, she said quietly, speaking in broken sentences.
Meant for him. Would have killed him. Played on his wish. Has now,
Rosie said, setting Nadia back to sleep.
Can you hear it, Thomas?
I can hear it, but there'll be a bad scar.
Thomas said, sweating slightly for the effort.
I can take it from here. Go see Donovan.
Rosie nodded and walked over to him.
She's gonna be okay,
she said, placing her hand on Donovan's shoulder. It should have been me going to Robotropolis, not her, he said quietly.
Didn't you hear what she just said? Robotnik was waiting for you. He had his trap set for you.
I wouldn't have died.
She didn't either.
But she could have. I would not have.
Don't be so sure,
Nadia said, wide awake again. She sat up slowly, waving Thomas aside.
Your list would have deflected the laser that did this to me, right?
If it didn't make the laser malfunction.
Which would have made the ceiling down, blocking all doors and trapping you there.
Nadia interrupted.
Donovan, he was ready for you.
Still, I should have went. Nadia sighed in exasperation, and Sally and Sandra showed up. Donovan turned to face Nadia, and she caught her breath, spying tears flowing from his good eye.
You don't get it, do you?
He asked as he walked over to her.
So what if Robotnik was ready for me? So what if he had to trigger to cross the Cravian? It was my responsibility, and even then, I'll be damned if I have somebody die for me, especially you! Mind where you are.
Thomas smiled softly, got elbow from Rosie from his ribs for his trouble.
We'll talk about it later,
Nadia said quietly.
Right now, I need to speak to Knuckles. Thomas, can you call him here?
I'm here already,
Knuckles said, stepping from the shadows. What do you need to talk to me about?
According to Robotnik, the Wind Emerald was fused with Snively when he was roboticized. Can your magic get it out?
Knuckles sighed and shook his head.
I've been trying to do that ever since this disaster happened. But every way I look at, using my magic will destroy both Sniffy and the Emerald. You may not be so concerned about Sniffy's life, but if the Emerald is destroyed, we all lose. Chaos will be immediately reborn.
So why did the Kamenov just destroy the Shadow Emerald?
Sandra asked. The power of a Guardian is needed to destroy an Emerald.
Daddy sighed.
Did it as I thought.
She turned to Donovan.
I know what you promised, Donovan, she said, but we need to know now. Where are the other two chips?
I don't know, Donovan said quietly.
But you know how to find out. Could somebody mind telling me what's going on? Sally asked.
I can't.
You have to, Nadia countered. This is the only way we can get the emeralds and Snifney. If we don't, the only way to avoid chaos is to give him the other 6 emeralds. Now, we might do that to save Mobius, but do you really think Fat Boy would?
Donovan sat down on the nearest bench, silent as a stone. Nadia opened her mouth to say something else, but was stopped by an unusual sight. The scabbard at Donovan's side began to glow, and the sword was lifting from it. Everyone stood or sat absolutely still as the sword floated over to Thomas and hovered in front of him. Thomas grabbed the sword hilt and closed his eyes.
I think someone wants to talk to you,
he said, then began to chant. Everyone watched Thomas in surprise, trying to figure out what he meant. But then, a ghostly form began to take shape in front of them. It was very light at first, but almost transparent. But Thomas chanted, it grew sharper and darker as the picture started to focus. As the ghost's face turned toward them, they all knew it could only be Father, Donovan asked, standing up in shock. The ghost of Deontay Asoya nodded his head. There must be great danger, he said quietly, else I would not have been summoned.
Greetings, old friend,
Thomas whispered quietly. Deontay turned to the Taunus, about in the air.
Greetings, Holy One.
He returned. They raised one eyebrow, closing the other eye. A look he had all seen Donovan at one time and the other.
Have you found us out in a view or something?
The Almighty has seen fit to return my youth to me, as well as to Rosie.
And you couldn't done anything else?
Yes, what can I say? God's right.
I'm sure I wouldn't have been summoned here to congratulate you on your second chance at life.
Deontay said quietly.
You're right, Nadia said, standing. I need you to release Donovan of his promise.
Deontay turned to Nadia, searching her face.
I don't recognize you, he said slowly. Who are you to want his promise released anyway?
I'm Nadia, hopefully soon to be your daughter-in-law.
Donovan just rested his face in his hands at that comment.
That's a matter for Nancy,
Deontay said.
Still, I should be released. Does Sally Alicia Acorn now sit on the throne of Mobius?
I do not, Sally said quietly, still not sure what was happening, but going along with it anyway. I almost lost my chance were it not for your son's help. This is a big relief to me, Sandra said. No offense to Sis, but I don't want to be queen.
Sis, Deontay asked. As I recall, the king only had 2 children.
Sandra held up her hand, showing her signet ring. I'm Princess Sandra, adopted into the House of Acorn, but still second in line to the throne. Deontay waved it off irritably.
This does not explain why no one is sitting on the throne yet.
Maybe this would help, Nadia said quietly. She held out her hand and a gray emerald appeared on it. Do-do-do-do!
The Emerald of Life.
Deontay asked disbelievingly.
How could this be?
I was wondering not myself, Knuckles said. I thought only a guardian could call the emeralds. This is the only one I can call Knuckles, Nadia explained. Remember, it gave me life. I always have a bond with it.
Guardian Knuckles, Deontay asked. So, then the race for the emeralds is at hand. I gathered it was started by Julian.
You called it correctly, Knuckles said.
How much further until the time of chaos?
Just a 1 month remains.
Shouldn't Armageddon be starting soon if the other emeralds are not acquired?
This brings us to why you're here, Nadia interrupted. One of the emeralds, the Wind Emerald, is fused with a robot-sized form. According to Knuckles, the only way to get it out with destroying it is to de-roboticize him. That's why we need Donovan released from the promise.
Deontay's face grew serious. Agreed,
he said simply. Donovan looked up in surprise. Huh?
The fate of Mobius rests on obtaining all 7 emeralds. Even if Armageddon is won, you will still only have 6. Giving them to the roboticized form doesn't guarantee he would produce the 7th. Thus Chaos is still reborn, and Mobius no more.
Our arrests would make no difference without your permission, Nadia said. When Donovan makes a promise, he keeps it. Deontay turned to face Donovan. Donovan stood slowly, meeting his father's gaze with his own.
A man is only as worthy as his word,
Deontay said quietly.
You have grown to be quite an honorable man, my son. Make me very proud.
Deontay began to fade as the sword's glow faded.
Remember to know your enemy, or this will all be for nothing,
he said, disappearing from view completely. With the last glimmer of light, the sword left Thomas's hands and floated up before Donovan. Donovan grabbed the sword's hilt and seized it, letting the tears flow freely from his eye. He just stood there, silent, and the others allowed him a few moments to compose himself.
We have work to do,
he said with a sigh.
First, we must get back to the war room. You have to get everyone who needs to hear it there, because it'll only be played once.
Sally nodded quickly. Sandra and I will go ahead, she said. We'll be waiting for the 2 of you whenever you're ready. She and Sandra walked down the sanctuary and took off for Knothole. Nadia walked over to Donovan and gave him a hug. Everything will be all right, she whispered. Do you want to wait a few moments? Compose yourself.
Thanks,
Donovan said, hugging her and kissing her cheek. But we may not have a few minutes. Actually, Thomas would be so kind to teleport us there.
I can't interfere, Nadia, you know that, Thomas said quietly. And this is one spell Rosie does not know yet.
But I do, Knuckles said. Take all the time you need, and I will bring you there myself.
Thank you, Donovan said, and I do mean for everything.
Everyone just smiled at his words. Sally and Sandra ran to Knothole in silence.
They knew how important the information was they were going to soon hear was. They wanted everyone in the war room as soon as possible. There was absolutely nothing else on their minds until they got to Knothole. When they got there, however, whatever words they were going to say died on their lips. Tails was pacing across the path, muttering and cursing to himself. A little way away, Bunny and Antoine were engaged in a height of discussion. "What's going on?" Sandra asked as she and Sally slowed to a stop. Tails looked up and almost bit his tongue. "He's back," he said, a dark edge to his voice. "Who's back?" Bunny and Antoine turned towards the princesses. "Dorian's back," Bunny said calmly. "And he brought that no-good robot with him." Sally and Sandra looked at him. "I'm guessing he hasn't been released from his depths yet," Sally said quietly. Antoine shook his head slowly. "They have come here under a white flag of truce," he said. "They have insisted that they speak with you as soon as you arrive." Sally sighed. "Where's he being held?" "He's not," Tails said angrily. "Lydia claimed privilege again. They're both at her hut." "Well, you might, salad girl," Bunny said, punching a fist into the palm of her other hand. "I love nothing better than to throw both in jail. Well, your cousin won't hear of it." "Let's get over there before another fire breaks out," Sally muttered. She rushed over there with the others in tow, but then stopped when she saw that no crowd had gathered inside the hut. She walked calmly to the door and put her ear to it, listening. "Eavesdropping, Sally?" Lydia asked, poking her head out the window. "Not proper behavior for the princess." Sally paused and looked at her cousin. "I didn't want to intrude," she began. "Uh-huh," Lydia said with a smile. "But of course, I am actually glad you're here. Dorian and the metal side want to talk to you. It's about the emeralds." Sally looked behind her. Tails and Bunny were both shaking their heads, but Sandra and Antoine were nodding. "Thanks for the help," she muttered. "Anyone see Sonic? I want him here for this." "He's asleep," Tails said. "I'll go get him." "He's been doing that a lot lately," Sandra observed as Tails flew off. "I hope nothing's wrong." Antoine looked away from the others for a moment, not meeting their gazes. He knew full well what was going on with Sonic. In fact, he was the one that encouraged him to seek Donovan's help. Fortunately, the others were too preoccupied to notice. In a moment, Sonic ran up with Tails flying next to him. "What's the big news, Sal?" he asked, yawning. For an answer, Sally opened the door to Lydia's hut. Sonic walked around Sally and stopped when he saw inside. Dorian was sitting in a chair with Lydia now sitting on his lap. Metal Sonic had paced around his hut, his metallic face scowling. "Basically, we brought in a Dalek." Isabella was pacing right along with him, mimicking his expression. "What the?" Sonic exclaimed, stomping inside. "What the hell is he doing here?" "Take it easy, Sonic," Lydia said. "I claimed royal privilege. I'm talking about the robot."
"Nice to see you too," Metal Sonic said sarcastically. "Believe me, this is the last place I want to be, but we need your help."
"Well, what makes you think we'll give it?" Sally asked, coming up behind Sonic.
"Because you need ours too," Dorian said calmly. "Give me a chance to explain."
Sally looked at her once. "We don't have time for this," she said. "Donovan's going to show up any minute." Dorian flinched slightly, and Lydia felt it. "He wouldn't dare hurt you while you're under my protection," she said.
"If you get that all before he stops me,"
Dorian pointed out. "Let's get to the war room," Sally said. "We'll sort everything out when he arrives." Everyone filed into the war room, just as Donovan, Nadia, and Knuckles showed up. Donovan took one look at Dorian and charged down, sword drawn and eye red. Sandra threw a crystal in front of Donovan that exploded as soon as it hit the ground, blinding him. Donovan fell back, covering his eye. Before his vision cleared, Sandra and Bunny pounced on him, pinning him to the floor. "Cool it, Donovan!" Bunny said. "As much as I don't like it, Lydia's got royal privilege on him, and the robot. We gotta leave them alone."
"Royal privilege from Lydia may work on you," Donovan said when he could see again, "but it has no meaning for me."
"They accept it from me," Sandra said, struggling to hold his legs down. "They said he has something important to tell us."
"More specifically," Dorian interrupted, "we could get you the emerald."
Everyone in that hut turned to look at him. Even Donovan stayed quiet, waiting for Dorian continued. "Now that I have your attention," Dorian said, "so we get down to business. You know that Sniffy will never go with you willingly, and if he were to be D-robot size, and you can't risk fighting him, or you might never get the emerald. That's where we come in. If anyone can convince him to go along with this, we can. This sounds too simple for me, Sonic said. I know you two want something in exchange for your help.
Not really,
Sonic said.
All we want is to be let go afterward. All three of us.
Unacceptable, Sally said. Sniffly has to answer for his crimes. Lost Princess, you could pardon him, Dorian pointed out. What's more important, getting the emerald or your personal vengeance? Vengeance is stupid. Sally frowned and opened her mouth to make a sharp retort, but it was not there. Much as he hated to admit it, they were right. Unfortunately, they have a point, Donovan said, giving voice to what they all thought. But the decision is yours, Princess. Sally sighed. All right, you can come along, she said slowly, but be warned. Any sign of double-cross, and I will order Donovan to put his sword through your heart. Sally! Lydia yelled. How can you even see that? Dorian knew the rules when he was exiled. Lying to us now means he broke them. They'd have to kill me too, or did you forget about my claim? Sally turned to Lydia calmly. Your claim only extends within Nahal's boundaries. You know that better than I do. Lydia grimaced and turned her back on Sally. Sally nodded, and any looking at her could see she'd not wanted to do that. Are you ready, Donovan? She asked with a small sigh. I will be as soon as someone lets me up, he answered calmly. Sandra and Bunny both let him go and held him up. Donovan walked over to Sally and held out his hand to Nicole. When I do this, he said, taking off his other glove, no one can touch me until it's over. You'll understand why when it starts. Also, don't anyone make a sound or the recording will end. Since it erases as it plays, there's no second chance.
Who programmed something like that?
Nadia looked at it worriedly, but nodded with the rest of them. Donovan gave the stone of his ring a twist, and a short spike extended from it. He placed the spike into a hidden access port on Nicole. Nicole then slapped him. Enter first access code, she said. Omega 349er, Donovan said calmly. His body jerked as he was experiencing a mild electric shock. Enter second access code, Nicole said. I'm imagining right now she's little dressed up with a little hat and just unlocking some things and looking like a spy. Delta 6-1 Theta 2 Alpha. Donovan's body jerked again. He dropped to his knee. Everyone could see the sparks flying from his ring that time. Donovan! Nadia yelled, running to him. No! Sandra said, grabbing her and covering her mouth. Enter third access code, Nicole commanded. But it was Deontay's voice. Pierre de Colette. Antoine stiffened slightly when he heard his name. If it weren't for Donovan's earlier admonition, he would have said something. But now, he could only wonder why his father's name was given that access code. Ah, yes! Antoine's dad, Pierre. Sure. And not Armand. Later on, comics are fun. Donovan fell to the ground, body convulsing with a constant electric shock.
Greetings, Queen Acorn.
Deontay's voice came from Nicole.
My name is Deontay Osoya. I was a member of the Royal Guard and have included this message in your computer's programming.
And now I'm seeing Nicole with a little puppet. That looks like Deontay.
You see, I found out about Julian's intentions, but I fear I could not stop them. But there's something I could do. I knew you couldn't have trouble with building a deroboticizer, so I saved you the trouble. I created a circuit that, when installed in the roboticizer, will reverse its properties. The circuit is comprised of 3 parts, each one in a different location. One is with my son now, as it was with me. One was given to one of you, who I knew would never throw it away. The last is located in this very device that needs to be reversed. My son knows what these chips look like, and how to put them together. Good luck, and goodbye. End recording.
As the recording ended, Donovan stopped moving. His hand fell to the side, and Nicole skidded across the floor, his ring still attached to her. Nadia broke free of Sandra and ran to him, kneeling down next to him and cradling her head in his lap. Donovan, she whispered, stroking his hair. While Nadia attended to Donovan, Sally walked over and picked up Nicole.
She pulled a ring from the port and watched it crumble away in her hand. Nicole, status, she said, brushing her hand on her vest. One file deleted, Sally, Nicole said. Systems analysis underway. I now seen Nicole dusting off her little dress, trying to look around for the file. How's he doing? He's breathing, but I can't be certain of anything else, Nadia said quietly. I really should just get him back to the hut. Well, that's great, Bunny said. He's probably the only one here who had any chance to figure out these hints from his father. I don't know about the rest of you, but the outtake didn't give me nothing. Everyone else there just shook their heads, but Uncle Chuck spoke up. Wait a minute. I remember finding this odd chip in Brother's closet when I cleaned up last winter. It looked like it was part of a circuit, but then I had no idea what it did. Maybe we should ask him? Sounds like a good idea, Sally said. Anyone knows where he is? Probably hiding from Dulcie, Tails muttered. She hasn't been too good of a mood lately. I think I know where to find him, Sonic said. Be back in a Sonic second. Sonic! Sally yelled. But he was gone before it got out. Well, at least he's acting more normal, she said with a smile. But while he's gone, anyone have any idea where the last chip is? Donovan let out a low moan, bringing his hand to his forehead. He's coming too, Nadia said, breathing a relieved sigh. Donovan, are you okay? I guess, he said, sitting up, considering I had every nerve in my body electrified. Did you hear any of the recording? Sandra asked. Last thing I remember was entering the third access code. Well, we figured out about 2 of the clues, but the third one has us stumped. Something about being with you now, as it was with your father before. Donovan struggled to his feet with Nadia's help. I have a couple of things for my father. Take your pick. Actually, I don't think that's necessary, Sally said, walking to him. Then pulled out a sword, and though it seemed to resist at first, it drew free of the scabbard. Donovan turned to look at her. What do you need my sword for? What else means more to you that was your father's? She countered, examining the blade and hilt carefully. Point taken, even though I don't see how. Neither do I, Sally admitted. Let me have Nicole run a scan on it when she gets done with her analysis. No need for that, Sally girl, Bunny said, walking toward them. If anyone knows here about swords, it's me and Circuitwine. Let me have a look at it. Sally raised an eyebrow questioningly at Donovan and returned a look. It's your sword, she said simply. If she can hold it, be my guest, Donovan said. Bunny held her hand out. Bunny placed the hilt in her palm. But as soon as Bunny closed her hand around it, the sword tried to pull away from her. Single your mind, Bunny said, wrapping both hands around the hilt and holding on to with everything she had, even turning her left arm robotic for additional strength. The sword pulled every which way, but she held on to it. After a moment, it looked like it was going to stop, and Bunny relaxed slightly. As soon as he did, the sword pulled a different way up. Bunny still held on, but was soon lifted off the ground from the sword's pull. Get my down for higher! She yelled, kicking her feet as the sword raised her higher. Antoine jumped up and grabbed a hold of her foot, trying to get her down. But, being Antoine, he fell down. He quickly climbed up Bunny as soon as he got his hands on the blade of the sword, getting a quick grope in. A total accident, really. But, come on. If you were climbing up Bunny's hot, sexy body, and you were trying to grab onto something for holding on, and you had 2 beautiful objects right there, YOU! Found my teaser! As soon as Antoine touched the blade, it stopped pulling. It hovered in midair for a second or two, and Bunny landed on top of him. Well, hell, she murmured, smiling down. Guess this sword will still by after all. Bunny, could you be continuing this later? Antoine asked, a bit flustered, but it had something a bit more private. Bunny looked around, saw everyone staring out, and blushed bright red. Oh, certainly, Circuit One! She stammered out, pulling to the side and scrambling up at her feet. Antoine sat up and took a deep breath. To hide his own embarrassment, he set about examining his sword. It was only a moment before he saw the trick. Taking the hilt in one hand and the blade in the other, he pressed his hands together and twisted them in opposite directions. A loud click was heard, the bottom of the hilt opened. Antoine shook it for a moment, and a small chip fell out. Is this what we are looking for? He asked, holding the chip to Donovan and twisting the blade back into place. Donovan took the chip. I'm not going to ask how you knew, he said quietly.
Antoine smiled. It is simple. My father taught it to me when I was young, and my sword has such a place. He drew his sword twisted exactly as Donovan's. The hilt opened, and a small scrap of paper found out. He bent down to pick it up, but Bunny got to it first. Bunny, could I be having that back, please? Bunny looked down at the paper. Her eyes filled with tears when she realized what it was. This is the first love note I ever wrote you, she said. Where did you find it? It has always been there, he said, taking it and placing it back in his sword. Remember what I said. I could never forget.
This is all very touching, I'm sure, Metal Sonic interrupted. But I think we have a few more pressing matters at hand.
The robot's right, Tails said. We need to do this and do it now.
But we can't do anything without the third piece, Sally pointed out. Wonder what's taking Sonic so long? No sooner did Sally say that, Sonic dived through the door, just as his quill smoking. What happened, Sonic? Sally asked, stumbling to his feet. Sonic slowly turned to Sally with an almost evil look on his face.
That is the last time I go anywhere near a pregnant woman, he said roughly.
And what about when we get married? Sally asked.
Oh, that? I'm going off and hiding in the floating island.
The look of fear that crossed Sonic's face made Sally want to step back and break out laughing at the same time. Resisting both urges, she returned to Sonic's business at hand. Did you ask Router?
Yeah, he said slowly. He said that chip Uncle Chuck found was given to him by Donovan's father. Looks like Uncle Chuck was right. This is it, Uncle Chuck said, handing it over to Donovan.
Donovan looked at the chip and nodded. We have all three, he said. Now all we have to do is put them together, somehow hook it up to the roboticizer, get Snively in there, get the emerald out, and make it out alive.
Piece of cake,
Slider said sarcastically. Actually, it is, Sally said. If Dorian can really get Snively to cooperate, that is. If he won't for me, he won't for anyone, Dorian said seriously. So what's the plan? Sally walked over to activate the holographic projector. It was suddenly thrown to the ground, as was everyone in the hut, by a huge wave of wind that struck the hut. Sally scrambled out to her feet and looked out the window. Burrow had flown right by the hut and cracked the whip as he did. She was about to yell at him to be more careful, but had to pull her head back before it got taken off by Dulcie doing the same thing. A second, more powerful wind blast hit the hut, nearly collapsing it. Sally didn't move until she was sure the two dragons left the area, and the others followed her lead. We don't have much time, so we'll discuss it on the way. I'm going, as are Sonic, Donovan, Dorian, and Metal Sonic. Anyone else?
I go wherever Donovan goes,
Nadia said.
And I was thinking Bunny and I should come as well, Antoine said, just for protection.
From us, right? Metal Sonic sneered. Man, you guys are almost as mistrusting as Robotnik.
That stung, but Sally ignored it.
I'd be glad to have you two along, she said quickly. I don't think there's anyone else, though. We need to keep this as small as we can. If there's nothing else, we should be going.
Just give me a few seconds to grab my backpack, Sonic said. I think I have a few power rings stowed away in there.
Knuckles, who had been standing quietly in the shadows this whole time, slowly faded from view as everyone left. More than anyone there, he knew how important this was, and it killed him that he couldn't interfere. But he had no more experience with machines or robots,
mainly because he wasn't a member of the Dark Legion.
Those people had vanished long from the floating island.
Well, except for his girlfriend, but
that's another story.
And anything he tried to do would cause more harm than good. All he could do was wait and watch for the floating island.
With his friends by his side, of course.
On the way to Robotropolis, Sally outlined her plan. Dorian, Antoine, and Bunny would find Snively and convince him to go with them. Sally, Donovan, and Nadia would set up the de-roboticization circuit within the roboticizer. Sonic and Metal Sonic would cause Robotnik as much heartache as they could. It all seemed so easy when Sally talked about it, but they all knew it wasn't going to be. When he hit the boundaries of Robotropolis, all three groups split up and went their own ways. Sonic and Metal Sonic were the first ones to get into position. Now we wait, Sonic said, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. Metal Sonic looked down for a moment.
Look, he said after a while, I know you don't trust me, but think of it this way. Right now, I want to get Snively back before Robotnik gets his hands on him, no matter what it takes.
Wait a minute. A nice Metal Sonic? Black? Wants to help the Freedom Fighters? Shard? That's it! This is no longer Metal Sonic. I'm just gonna change all his names to Shard from now on. I can understand that, Sonic said, still shifting. Shard looked down at Sonic's feet. What happened to you? He asked, narrowing his robotic eyes. Nothing you need to concern yourself about. But if you're... I'm fine, Sonic snapped. I ran here, didn't I? Metal Sonic shrugged, but nothing else. He was keeping one eye on Sonic, but in case something went wrong. Both other groups arrived at their locations at the same time. Is everyone ready? Sally asked quietly to the communicator. Ready and waiting, Bunny said, getting nods from the other two with her. Same here, Sonic said. Then do it to it, Sonic. That's our cue, Sonic said, revving up his legs. Shard did the same, watching Sonic's face sidelong. He showed no sign of pain that the robot had seen earlier, but the robot was not so easily convinced. But right now, they had a job to do. Sonic and Shard ran right into Robotnik's control room and stopped in front of him. Yo, Buttnik! Sonic yelled. What? Robotnik screamed, glaring at the hedgehogs, one living and one robotic. Both of you. Twice the hedgehogs, twice the trouble, Shard said. He and Sonic took off in opposite directions, running around the control room. Their movements created a type of double tornado, inside the other. So Robotnik was flying one way and his equipment the other. After a couple of minutes, they ran out, letting everything fall. Robotnik staggered to his feet and pushed a button on his console. All units, after those hedgehogs, he ordered. That's our signal, Sally said, watching as the SWAT bots left the roboticizer unguarded. Meanwhile, Donovan was deep in thought. Apparently, he hadn't heard what Sally had said. Hey, Nadia said, nuzzling him in the ribs with her elbow. Let's sit down. Donovan said, looking around. Oh, sorry. Let's get inside before they get back, Sally said, heading towards the room. Nadia had to lead Donovan inside as she got more deep into thought. Okay, Donovan, Sally said when he reached the roboticizer. You tell me what's on your mind right now or we abort. This is too important to mess up. He said again. Oh, sorry. Sally, don't cut it this time, Donovan, Nadia said. What's going on? I don't know, Donovan admitted. I just have this nagging thought in the back of my mind, and I can't call it up. Can you at least tell me if it's something we should make us stop? I don't think so. Well, anyway, let me hook these things up. I'm sure it'll come down to me. Don't think it is a trap, Nadia said, touching her arm where the burn mark was, and pointing to the bomb above the door. If it's still active, I don't want to get trapped in here. That's right, he said. Now, how do we get around that? Sally took Nicole from her boot. Nicole, scan trap and find a way to deactivate, he said. Scanning now, Sally, Nicole said. And now I'm seeing her dressed up like Vax from Fox Machina, wearing a little wearing with cute little wings. I can jab the trap to prevent it from going off. Good work, Nicole, Sally said, smiling. Okay, Donovan, it's up to you now. Meanwhile, Dorian was walking towards the roboticized Snively, with Bunny and Antoine right behind him. Bunny held her sword drawn, and it glowed of quiet blue light. Wait, Sting? Antoine kept rubbing his metallic upper arm, as it itched. I am not liking this, Antoine whispered harshly. There should be at least some sort of cutting him. No. Sonic and Metasonic must be doing a better job than we figured, Dorian said. But you're right. Robotnik wouldn't be foolish enough to leave him completely unguarded. Bunny turned her head slowly around from side to side. Her face was covered in a fine sheen of sweat, except for the jagged scar over her eye. Every instinct of my body is telling me they're here somewhere, she said. In fact, there you are now! Bunny ran off into a shadow and disappeared from sight. Antoine started to run after her, but stopped when he heard the distinct sound of metal being torn asunder. The electric flashes that lit up the shadows, both he and Dorian could see that something was already being wrecked. 3 SWAT bots and a 4th was about to fall. It is being getting sniffy and going to the others, Antoine said. What about her? Dorian asked. What about mine? Bunny asked, stepping in the shadows and sheathing her sword. Sorry, the fairy thought maybe drool. Dorian looked at her in a moment and shrugged. He walked to Sniffly and tapped on his robotic shoulder. Sniffly? Sniffly turned to face him. Dorian, what are you doing here? He asked quickly. You know it's not safe for you. It's less safe for you. Robotnik knows. We have to get you out of here. I have to wake up the emerald from here. Bunny said, touched forcefully. What are you doing here? Sniffly asked. Would you rather they get the emerald or Robotnik? Dorian asked simply. Sniffly's red eyes narrowed. Then why don't they give me their emeralds? Surely they know I'd be better than Robotnik. That's it. Will somebody kick him in his metal balls? Both Antoine and Bunny opened their mouths to let Sniffly have it, but Dorian calmly held up one hand. Laying close to Sniffly, he whispered one word the others could not hear, then stepped back. Actually, 2 words. Iron Queen. There's no way she would bang her boyfriend if he was robotic. At the time it took for Dorian to step back, a change came over Sniffly. All of his cockiness, all his arrogance, all of it faded. Instead, Sniffly seemed to return to himself slightly, as if whatever Dorian had said cut straight to his heart. You win, he whispered quietly. I'll give you the emerald. Dorian smiled and stepped to one side. Sniffly huffed off toward the roboticizer, leading the way. Bunny walked behind him, with Dorian and Antoine bringing up the rear. If I may be asking, Antoine said in an undertone to Dorian, what is it that you told him that got him to collaborate so easily? Dorian sighed quietly. Just the name of someone who could be very disappointed if she knew what he was doing. My sister, Lisa. Antoine thought about that for a moment, then nodded to himself. I see. Just not to worry. I did tell no one of this. Oh my god. Was Sniffly practicing bestiality? Huh, looks like he's not the only one who was fucking an animal. I mean, after all, Robotnik was banging vanilla, and that's why we got cream. Hello! I don't think I'll matter for long, Dorian said gravely. The rest of the walk conducted in silence, broken only by Sniffly's metallic footsteps. Sonic and Melisonic tore through the hallways of Robotropolis, causing as much damage as they could to both SWAT bots in the hallways themselves. Everything was going along fine until Melisonic suddenly went down, until Shard went down, skating face first along the floor. Sonic! Shard asked, pulling him to his feet. What happened? Sonic tried to run, but yelled as soon as his left foot touched the floor. My foot's gone! He said, biting back the pain. Go on without me! And have your fiancé rip me apart one piece at a time? The robot asked, putting Sonic over his shoulder. Fat chance! Besides, you're the one that's going to take out Robotnik! We both know that! Slow you down, Sonic said, once as the hover units actually started catching up. Can't help that! We might have to turn and fight! Maybe not. Sonic reached into his backpack and pulled out a power ring. Calling on the energy in the ring, Sonic flipped to his feet and took off running, carrying the robot this time. He didn't feel any pain in his foot, but he knew it was really tearing it up. But that would heal. Hopefully. In the roboticizer room, Sniffly watched as the glass tube lowered to enclose him. Are you sure this will work? He asked. After all, if something happens to me, yes, sir, Nutty interrupted. Besides, if it doesn't, it won't matter. Thanks for the comfort, Sniffly said sarcastically. I'm ready whenever you are. Donovan nodded, standing near the console. Just before he pushed the button, he got a strange pain in his forehead. He leaned forward slightly, massaging his temples. For a few moments, he shook out the pain and pushed it. A yellow beam fell at Sniffly, blocking him from view for a time. When the beam faded, Sniffly, the flesh person, stood before them all and opened his eyes. In his hands, he held a white emerald that he handed to Sally when the glass lifted. As per the agreement, he said slowly. Sally nodded, putting the emerald away in her pocket of her vest. I hope you don't mind me fulfilling my end of it until we get out of here safely, she said. Let's just get the circuit and get out of here, Donovan said, opening the port and reaching in. But as soon as he touched it, it crumbled away into dust. Donovan just stood there frozen, as that thought that had been nagging him the whole time finally forced its way to the forefront. Know your enemy, or it'll be all for nothing, he whispered, echoing his father's words. Just then, a force field enveloped inside the room. What's that? Antoine said, punching the shield and getting an electric shock for his trouble. Donovan's head fell forward until his chin rested on his chest. Sally pulled Nicole from her boot and opened her up. Nicole, scan for weaknesses, she ordered, but Nicole's screen was blank. Oh great, look at her! She's in a little bed! With a little nightcap! Just her nightgown! With a little blankie! I keep coming up with all these cute situations for Nicole. Whatever that seal is, it's affecting Nicole. As he also has a little thermometer, showing that she's sick. Donovan drew his hand back from the roboticizer and clapped it across his face. That's when Sonic and Sarge showed up. Hey, what happened? Sonic asked, setting Sarge down. Bunny drew her sword and slashed at the shield. Her strike opened up a rip in the shield, but closed up immediately. Stay back, everyone, she said, adjusting her grip. I'm gonna have to try Starfire. I got a better idea, Bunny, Sonic said, pulling another power ring from his backpack. Can you make another slice of the shield? Bunny slashed at the shield again. Sonic wedged the ring into the openings he created. He forced the ring to turn until he could reach through the ring and the shield if he wanted. He backed away a few steps and fell to the ground, grabbing his foot. Sonic! Sally yelled. Don't worry about me for now, he said. Shard, try to expand the ring. Hurry! The robot nodded, placed his hands inside the hole created by the power ring. Slowly, he pushed his hands outward. Nothing happened at first, but then everyone could see the ring was widening. Though it grew thinner, the bigger it became. That's as far as I can go, he said. Any more and the ring will collapse. Sally looked at the opening. It wasn't wide enough to walk through, but she tells it could be easily dived through. Let's go, everyone, she said. Bunny, you first. Robotnik walked calmly toward the roboticizer room. Even if Sonic and Shard had gotten away, he had their friends. It'd be so simple to force them to give up the emeralds, especially if we threatened the life of the princess. True, there was less of a threat with the other princess around, but he knew Sonic would think of his heart, not his head. But all his plans came to a stop when he actually reached the room. The shield was still there, intact, but no one was inside. Nearly growling in rage, Robotnik punched the wall. How? How does he always do that to me? I truly hate that hedgehog! Swap it! Yes, sir. Punch! In Knothole, there was a general feeling of disquiet as stiffly Battlesonic and Dorian were brought before the three princesses. As much as it bothers me, Sally began, according to the deal we made, I now have to pardon you for your crimes against Mobius. But just because you are pardoned doesn't mean I trust you yet. You are free to stay if you choose, but we'll be watching your every movement if you do. With all due respect, Sniffly said, under those conditions, I prefer to see my home elsewhere. There's this very lovely woman who's in charge of the Iron Dominion that would love to have me. Don't worry, you won't either see or hear me from again. I'll listen till the race is over. I'll go with you, Sarge said. I don't think Knothole can take both me and Sonic here at the same time. Sonic nodded and smiled lightly. His foot was bandaged up, and Sally ordered him to stay off it until Thomas could look at it. We do make a good team, though, he said. Maybe we'll again sometime. What about you, Dorian? Sniffly asked. I am honor-bound to stay with you, Dorian said quietly, glancing at Lydia momentarily. Sniffly noticed the glance, as well as the return from Lydia. What kind of friend would I be if I made you come with me against the wishes of your heart? Oh, that was so sweet. I know, adorable. So pure friendship. And Rainbow Dash is right now saying that this is utterly cheesy in the distance. Yeah, and so is Applejack. And so is my brother. Ruffians. Indeed, ruffians. I'm going to have a long talk with her. Dorian stood for a time, not sure what to say or do, but then he was suddenly tackled by Lydia into a tight hug. I'll take this rib for one more in my hut, she said, planting a kiss on his surprised face. Sally rolled her eyes and sighed. If there's nothing else, you're free to go. Sniffly nodded and wiped out with Shard in tow. The crowd dispersed soon after those two had actually left Knothole and disappeared to the great forest. Dorian, however, once he got free from Lydia, went straight to his family's home. They had a party for him that night. Extremely happy he was there, and home to stay. Donovan sat in front of Sanctuary's altar, his sword laying on top of it. What has become of me? He thought. There was a time when I could have seen any and all traps Robotnik could have thrown at me, before I even thought of them. Now I only got outdone by him twice in one day. Because of my negligence, all roboticized Mobians are doomed to eternity in metal. Worse yet, I may have now doomed us all with how I pushed Sonic. There you are.
Nadia called, stepping into the sanctuary. Sally wanted to give this to you, but you disappeared before she could.
I don't feel like being part of any celebration, Donovan said. Besides, I wanted to be by myself.
Then, be that as it may, this is for you. She handed him a small diskette. Sally had Nicole scan the memory of the schematics at the derobotilization circuit. She says you could use them to rebuild it. Donovan took the disc and looked at it.
Hold on to it,
He said, handing it back to her.
even though it may not matter.
Oh, there's also a message from Sonic. He said he looks forward to the next training session. He seems to think it's helped today. Said something about trying to burst through the shield before you started working with him.
If he's even able to stand up, that is, Donovan said quietly. In training him, I think I might have ruined him.
I don't think you did everything Thomas can't undo. Even so, Robotnik would be expecting Sonic's speed, not his brains. Hey, guys, don't you remember what Sonic once said in an episode? When fast thinking is of the essence? He's the essence of fast thinking. Donovan looked up at Nadia, stood up.
He walked over to her, grabbed her cheeks and kissed her full on the lips. He held it for a few seconds, then broke. Thanks. I needed that. He said, getting his sword.
You're not the only one,
Nadia said with a smile, slipping an arm around his waist as they walked out. Back in the knothole, Dorian was enjoying himself. Boy, was he ever! Woo!
Watching Lydia talk to his parents, when a thought struck to him. He looked around, then posed a question to which no one there knew the answer. Does anyone know where Lisa is?